All right, let's look at our exponent rules. So with exponent rules, we have a couple things that we're going to do so that we can start learning how to simplify. So the first thing we're going to look at is just the rules. So make sure you write these down. So when we multiply with exponents, as long as they have the same base. So write that over here. You have to have the same base. Okay, so over here, we've got x to the m times x to the n. When you multiply, you're actually going to add your exponents. Next one. If we have x to the m over x to the n, when you divide, you're going to subtract your exponents. Next one. When you have a power to a power, so x to the m raised to the n, you're going to multiply your exponents. And when you have a negative, it's going to change sides of the fraction. So whole numbers are typically on top of 1. So this is on top, so it would go to the bottom. If it's on the bottom, it would come to the top. I'll put that over here. So let's say we have 1 over x to the negative m. So that would become x to the m. And then the last thing you need to remember, and you can check this in a calculator if you don't believe me, anything to the 0 power is 1. So we're going to work on just simplifying problems using these exponent rules. All right, so the first one, let's say we have x squared y to the second power times x to the third y to the fourth. Okay, so the first thing I'm going to do, if the exponent rules don't make sense to you, you can always write it out. So if I write this one out, I would end up with 2 of these parentheses. So I would write that twice. So I have x squared y, and then I'm going to bring down the rest of it. So times x to the third, y to the fourth. Well, I don't have any more power to a power, so now I'm going to write out all my x's and y's. So I have x, x, y, x, x, y, x, 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 y, 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 y. What does that leave me with? X to the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7th. Y to the 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. There's your answer. Now, if you use the other way and you wanted to do exponent rules, the first thing that we would have to do is deal with our powers. So here's the problem that we had. So power to a power, we multiply. So 2 times 2 and 2 times 1. So that gives you x to the fourth, y squared. We're going to take the same bases and put them together. So when we multiply, we add our exponents. So we have x to the 4 plus 3, y to the 2 plus 4. When I simplify that, I get the exact same answer of x to the 7th, y to the 6th. Either method is completely fine with me. Okay, next one. Let's say we have x, y, z to the 0 power times x to the fourth, y squared over x to the 6th. Well, first off, the first thing I look for is anything to the 0 power is what? If we go up here, anything to the 0 power is 1. So down here, this entire thing right here becomes 1. So we don't even have to deal with it. Now we do have a fraction on this one, which will work a little bit differently. So on top of the fraction, I'm going to write out my x's. I have x, 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 y, y over x, 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 x. Well, when we're dividing, we have that division symbol. It's kind of like a battle line. So you have one team on top, one team on the bottom, and they're battling. So these guys cancel each other. Cancel, cancel, cancel. So what do you have left? We have y squared over x squared. Now, if we had used exponent rules at that step, we would have had x to the 4th, y squared, over x to the 6th. Well, when we divide, we subtract our exponents. So we would have x to the 4 minus 6, y squared. X to the 4 minus 6 gives you a negative. And what do we have to do with those negatives? We have to take them, capture them, and put them underneath on the other team. So you really have y squared over x squared, which is the exact same answer we got before. So if you don't understand the exponent rules, write it out, write it out, write it out, write it out, and then cancel. Okay, count up how many x's and y's you have. If it's a fraction, cancel them. Let's do another one. So let's do one with numbers out in front. So 9 x to the 3rd y times x to the negative 2 y over 27 x y to the negative 2. Let's do y to the negative 3. Get some different numbers in there. So the first thing that I do, no matter what, the first thing I do is find the negative powers and make them go to the other side of the fraction line. So this guy is going to come down. And then this one that I'm going to put in purple is going to come up. So really we have 9x to the 3rd, y to the 3rd, over 27x, and then I brought that x squared down. The next thing I do is I look at my numbers. So my numbers, I'm going to simplify just as if they were a normal fraction. What number goes into 9 and 27? 3 or 9. So I'm going to take a 9 out, which becomes 1 over 3. Now, if you don't understand your exponent rules, write it out. I have x, y over 3x, x. Okay, cancel what you can. Well, in this one, we have an x that cancels, an x that cancels, and an x that cancels. So on top, we're left with y to the 5th over 3. And there's your answer.